Today is September 6th, and I am trying to register for classes again, and my educational goals are being, it looks like, stalled and delayed unnecessarily for possibly the maybe 12th time in the last 7 years. And there's really no cause for it right now. Supposedly transcripts were supposed to come through a system, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be there by this morning. Supposedly they come through every evening at 12 o'clock, and as of right now, nobody can find them. So I'm trying to register for fall courses. I was forced to take, so far in the last 2 years, 2 different separate breaks and basically interruptions in the middle of my education. And every time that that's happened, it's turned out to be the federal government utilizing their resources through the Department of Education to block something, or using people they know through the FBI who are in charge of financial aid or admissions or some sort of process through college. So that has been ongoing as I've tried to, even as I was trying to appeal for my son, and has made it impossible for me to have any kind of livelihood or educational direction, because when I'm constantly being blocked and from pursuing something, no matter what it is, there's basically really no point for my being in the United States at all, is there? So I think that's been part of their goal, is to basically use me as much as they can, which they've done, and to try to break me down and keep me out of money, which they've done for over 7 years, while they've tortured me and used me and allowed their FBI and other federally connected agents sexually assault me. So this topic today is on the sexual assault and the refusal of the United States to promptly handle, charge, prosecute crimes of rape in the first degree that were perpetrated against me, which I reported within the applicable time frames to report. The statutes had not expired, and I should have been able to successfully gone somewhere with the court with that, and nothing was ever done. And in fact, even though they made steps to make it look like they were doing something, they in fact were tipping off the rapists to leave the country and protecting the rapists. And in addition to that, even if they had at any time acknowledged that something had possibly gone wrong or happened with me, they have blocked me, and they did in the past, and when I tried to access victims' resources and counseling or advocacy in any way, I was blocked from doing that. And there is a fund for that, for rape victims. I went to the Multnomah County Courthouse about it, and I called several times, and I was pushed out of any kind of advocacy. So that began after I went to Detective Brian Gross. And I think that I said in a former clip that I hadn't reported, I was first reporting the rape by Josh Gatov, which was the Jewish person who told me he was Jewish after he raped me. I mean, I think I knew he was Jewish possibly before, but he made an interesting religious point after he did what he did to me. And I went to the police about that one, and then I believe I said that I was talking about Detective Gross and how he treated the complaint, and how when we were outside of the office he treated me differently than when we were in the office. And I believe I misstated something, and I misstated the idea that I had not said anything to Detective Brian Gross about Robin Bechtold, the second rapist. And that's not true. I actually remember that when he really wanted to shut me down and quit investigating anything was when I just barely brought that name up or brought that situation up. So I do recall bringing that up, and then his efforts to close any kind of investigation of rape at all down. So Robin Bechtold's brother, Nathan Bechtold, is connected to the cops in Portland and in the state of Oregon. He is a cop. He went to law enforcement school and worked, I believe, as a guard at a jail for a while, but he's also a cop. Joshua Gatov, who was tipped off to leave the country after I initiated a report against him. I am absolutely positive, I haven't confirmed yet which organization he was with, but I have absolutely no doubt that he was either working with or for the FBI, Portland Police in some way, and or potentially military. And I'm not sure, I've not been able to confirm the military connection. I'm positive that he was working for a law enforcement agency in some way, and possibly he was working at the ENNL Center with international students prior to 1999 for, I don't know, possibly for some of the same reasons that he raped me and then bragged about how he was a Jew. So potentially he wanted access to international students from other countries in order to give information to an agency that has been undisclosed. So he did go out of his way to rape me. I did try to report it, and I do believe that the PD, Portland PD, was involved in some way. Somebody was involved in tipping him off, and I also believe that potentially the FBI was involved in tipping him off, Joshua Gatov, to leave the country. So that's what he did, and after Detective Brian Gross told me to just get a new coat and mocked me and then walked away, I wasn't really sure what to do at that point. So, I think I was in shock. After that, I believe I was still in college at Portland State University, full-time, and I still had a job working, selling books, which I'd sort of created for myself, because it gave me some flexibility to be able to work and have a little bit of income, not enough to be taxable or necessarily reportable, but a little bit to get me through, PSU and because, funds were tight. So that helped a little bit. And then I also had those 2 lawsuits that I was still pursuing, and I spent quite a lot of time at the Lewis and Clark Law Library doing research, and really they never had to worry about me there because I had signed a contract with after studying there a little bit and wanting to have more time than was typical for the public, the dean of the law school allowed me to sign a contract and agreed to give me extra time when the library was open for their law students at that college, which was very nice, and it was very helpful. I took advantage of that and upheld my end of the bargain to the fullest by not disturbing any of the law students there or asking for help from them in any way. And it was I spent hours. I was extremely devoted and dedicated once I get set onto a project. And I'm on a course and trying to track something down, there's very little that can deter me. And I think that's part of the reason also why military torture has been convenient for those who want to keep me out of doing anything productive, because they already know I'm very determined and that I have persistence to see something through. I don't give up easily. So it was very educational to be able to study at that law library. I learned how to shepherdize textbooks. Some of the librarians there, they did show me, gave me a few directions on how to shepherdize, just some basic things, how to use the computer. But otherwise I was on my own. I had no help from anyone else. I held my lawsuits up on my own. And I did learn how to use the book systems and journals, as well as, LexisNexis and Westlaw, and found a combination of all of those things to be helpful and most beneficial. I found going just to the computer did not always give you the results that you were looking for, that sometimes you really have to go to those hardbacks and go to that index, look for a specific case or a specific word, and then follow that up. And there's a lot of hidden good in those books that I think sometimes the fast food law school technique doesn't always encourage, or fast food society, I suppose, doesn't. We forget to dig around in an old-fashioned way that sometimes can be more productive, even if it takes a little more time. So I was at that point deciding that I was going to be a lawyer. I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed doing research. I was good at it. I applied myself. I'm not saying I was smarter than anyone else. I just was very diligent. And so, I at that point was thinking of going to law school. I was at PSU. My GPA wasn't getting higher the longer I was in school, not lower, even though I had a high workload. And I was very excited about that. My aim was to improve my GPA, get the highest marks that I could, bring it up, and then apply to one of the better law schools and be a lawyer for probably civil rights. Civil rights was what I was interested in most of all. And so that's what I was doing at that time. So in the meantime, between while I was doing all those things, after that article came out, that's when the article about I actually was that's when the article by the Willamette Week came out, and really was very defamatory, prejudiced. The way I was treated by a lot of people cast me in a completely different light than I should have been cast in. And at that point, I began having vandalism happen again, because vandalisms had quit once I filed my lawsuits. I had multiple cars, tire slashings, window bashings, and that kind of thing, and as soon as I filed my lawsuits, for whatever reason, those things came to an end. However, after the article by the Willamette Week came out, I was then being victimized. My mail was constantly being disrupted. I was getting mail from a friend, the friend that had moved to Idaho to get out of the area. I got a card from her that was all disheveled. It was already opened and coming out of some sort of federal post office truck. Coming straight from them, it was opened with a mangled envelope and had clearly been gone through. Some of my mail I wasn't receiving. Then I had an incident at an apartment complex where my mailbox, a section of mailboxes was broken into, and my mailbox was part of that section. It was, for example, if there's a row, if you can imagine a row of mailboxes all together, and on one side it's mailboxes 1 through 10, and mine's 8 or whatever, number you want to choose. 7, 6, 5. I can't remember the number.